Welcome back to Community Bible Church's Kids Class. Community Bible Church thanks Bible Visuals International for the use of this story. And now for this week's episode of Salvador of Spain. Outside the office, Salva looked at Jose with fear and anger in his eyes. So the doctor thinks there's no hope for us? We might as well not bother trying to stop doing drugs. Salva said nothing more as they walked home, but frightening and confusing thoughts chased through his mind. I'll never get off drugs now. If there's no hope, why should I care? But I'm tired of doing drugs. But am I that tired? Drugs make me feel so good. For a while. Although Salva didn't spend much time at home, he began to notice a change in his mother. She had started going to meetings in a missionary's home, where they read and talked about the book called the Bible. What's so special about the book? Salva scoffed. He remembered seeing the priest holding a black book in his hand and telling stories from it in religion class. But the priest never told the students to read it. Salva, the Bible is different. It's different from all other books. His mother exclaimed, "The Bible is God speaking directly to us. He used people to write down the words, but the words are directly from Him." How can God speak directly? Salva thought as he left the house to buy drugs. That's crazy. Whenever Salva thought about God, and he tried not to, sometimes the thoughts came anyway. He saw a huge judge with an angry face, just waiting for Salva to reach the end of his life so he could give Salva all the punishment he deserved. And maybe a bit more. God speaking directly? Salva did not want to hear it. But his mother kept attending the meetings, and a church started by the same missionaries. One day she returned excited and happy. "What happened to make you so happy?" Salva asked in amazement. "I finally understand what Jesus did when he died on the cross," she said. "I used to think that he paid for only part of my sins. I had to pay for the rest. I thought God was angry with me because no matter how hard I tried, I could never do enough good things, say enough prayers, give enough money, or go to confession often enough to pay for the sins Jesus didn't pay for. Then I began studying the Bible, and that made me feel even worse. It said that even the best things I do, when compared to how good God is, are only like filthy rags." "Filthy rags? That's ugly," Salva exclaimed. His mother ignored his outburst. "But then I saw what Jesus did with all those filthy rags. He took them all of my sins, on himself when he hung on the cross. It was as if he had done the sins, but he had never done one sin in his life." She spoke softly. "When the nails were pounded into his hands, it was because of my sin. He was being punished for me, for my sins, all of them." There were tears in her eyes, but joy in her voice. "Today, I told Jesus that I believed he died for my sins, and that I trusted him instead of myself to pay for them. I asked him to forgive me for all of my sins, and he has. That awful weight of trying to do something that is impossible is gone. I'm forgiven." "Forgiven?" Salva's eyebrows raised, and he looked at his mother quizzically. Could it be that I could be forgiven too? For a brief instant, Salva began to believe that maybe it could happen to him. But no, he thought, despair overcoming him. I'm a heroin addict. Even if Jesus had somehow done something about my sins, he could never set me free from heroin. Heroin is stronger than anything. I might as well forget what Mom has said. But because Salva lived in the same house, when he was home, he couldn't help seeing how different she acted. She still screamed at times, but when she talked to Jesus about it, she believed that she was forgiven. Jesus paid for all my sins, she said, even the ones I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and the next. Salva only shook his head. This didn't make any sense to me. Salva, his parents said one evening, there is a place in Madrid that helps drug addicts be free of drugs. It's Christian. Would you be willing to go? Salva hesitated. He wanted to stop taking drugs. It was getting harder to get money to continue buying drugs. Jose is going, his mother added. Her face looked as if she were wishing very hard. It would be wonderful if both of you could be free of drugs. All right, Mom, I'll go, Salva said grudgingly. At the center, the doctor questioned both boys. Do you want to be free of drugs? Jose looked soberly at the doctor. I really want to stop, but I can't. And what about you, Salva? The doctor said. Salva laughed rudely, then boasted, if I had the money, I'd never quit taking drugs. We can't let you stay, the doctor told him. You have to want to stop taking drugs. Jose may enter the program, though. Days, weeks, months went by as Salva continued stealing, selling, and using drugs, feeling blissfully peaceful, and then having sharp, awful cravings for more drugs. Salva felt as if he was on a horrible ride down a steep hill and couldn't get off. He went to his dad. Could you talk to the missionary and find out if there's another place I could try to get off drugs? The missionary knew of another drug rehabilitation center, but it was 6 hours north of Madrid. Salva watched the scenery change from a busy city to mile after mile of country with few towns or houses. Where on earth are we going? He thought in alarm. What am I getting myself into? Salva got out of the car and looked around. This place didn't even have electricity. And everyone is carrying Bibles. At the end of the first day, Salva had only one thought in mind. I gotta plan how to get out of here, he said to himself. These people are crazy talking about God and the Bible so much. What good can God do for me? But everyone at the center was friendly and included Salva in all the activities. Maybe God can help me, Salva thought again. I'll try to stick it out. But 4 days later, Salva and 2 others stood on the roadside, hitchhiking their way back to Coslada. I had to leave, Salva told himself, his arms and legs shaking. No heroin for 3 days. I feel as if I'm crawling out of my skin. Back in Coslada, Salva bought heroin and injected it into his arm. What relief. Hey, Salva, how are you doing? How did it go? Salva opened his blurry eyes and saw Jose. There was something different about his face. He was smiling. His eyes were bright and alert. It was okay, Salva replied passively. The people were cool, kinda weird about God, but other than that, pretty nice. No heroin, though. I had to leave early. He paused. What's with you, Jose? You look happy. Salva, I know this Jesus stuff sounds weird to you, but it's Jesus who's given me this happiness that I have now. I was so out of control, a slave to drugs, wrecking my body, treating other people's property as if it were my own just because I had to have money for drugs. But at the center, they kept telling me from the Bible that God already knew how rotten I was. He sent Jesus to be punished for every single one of my sins. They told me that if I would ask Jesus, he would forgive me and make me like a new person. Salva, I did that. The room was still. Then Salva spoke wistfully. Well, I'm glad it worked for you, Jose. Really glad. But I don't think it would for me. But it will, Salva. It will. Salva saw how different Jose acted. He was happy, and Salva wanted the same happiness. Maybe if I read the Bible, I can find out what Jose found. Salva thought. He picked up the Bible his mother had placed beside his bed and read it when no one was looking. God, why is there so much evil in the world? Why do you seem so far away? Sometimes at night, alone in his room, Salva would cry, God, if you are real, please show yourself to me. I wish I could find what Jose and Mother have, but I just don't seem to be there for me. One day, his mother stopped him on his way to his room. Salva, would you like to come to camp with your father and me? It is a beautiful place out in the country. Camp? Salva thought, as he looked down at his mother. Maybe being there would help me stay away from drugs. Yeah, I'll go, he said gruffly, but not wanting her to know how much he really wanted to attend. The camp was beautiful, and the people were fun. The people had fun with them. They were happy just like his mother and Jose. Seeing their happiness made Salva feel left out. He was so different from them. For the first time, Salva felt uneasy about his uncombed hair. No other men walked around with their shirts unbuttoned. Salva noticed a pretty young woman with dark hair who always seemed ready to talk to him. He didn't know she was a missionary who had heard his mother praying for him. The second day, he invited her to go canoeing. As they paddled down to the end of the lake, Ellie asked, Salva, are you a happy man? No, he replied, his face serious and very sad. I am miserable. Ellie looked at him. I am a happy person, Salva. Will you let me tell you how you can become a joyful person too? Yes, Salva answered slowly, but he didn't ask her to tell him then. He was quiet, and Ellie couldn't read his thoughts. Maybe this happiness isn't for everyone. Maybe for everyone but me. I don't see how a heroin addict can be happy. After canoeing, Salva saw John, one of the missionaries, sitting by himself reading. Hey, Salva asked, walking up to him, what are you reading? Must be pretty good to keep you from all the others. Sounds like they're all having a good time. John held up the book. It was written years ago by a man named Charles Spurgeon. He wanted to explain salvation. It's called All of Grace. Can I read it? John laughed. It's all marked up from me trying to learn new Spanish words. I'll get another one for you when we get back to Madrid. But I'd like to read it now, even if it is marked up, Salva replied. You really do? Well, okay, John said, handing the book to Salva. Just don't say I didn't warn you about my scribbling. Salva carried the book to the quiet spot and opened it. Minutes passed, then half an hour. As Salva read, a hard place inside him softened, a place that had said there was no hope. It was as if a tiny seed of hope had been planted. The book said some of the same things his mother, the missionaries, and Jose had told him from the Bible. Salva began to understand what he read. Hope grew stronger in his heart. Then a thought, like a giant foot, stamped and smashed his hope. Heroin. Maybe Jesus could forgive me, but can he set me free from heroin? No one, Salva said to himself, not even Jesus, can set me free from heroin. Salva was miserable. Part of him wanted so much to hope and believe, while another part of him said so convincingly, there's no hope. That's where we're going to stop this week. Please come back next week for the last part of Salvador of Spain. Thank you to the talented writers and artists of Bible Visuals International